And welcome to another update. In this one, I'll be covering the whole front line, starting out in the Zaporizhzhia front. Here we can see the Ukrainian forces have started attacks in three directions. To the south of Polyapole, to the east of Orihiv, and to the south of Kamyansk, here in the western part. So the Ukrainian forces are here doing some probing attacks and trying to see and test the Russian defenses in these areas, as well as see how fast they respond and develop counteroffensives to these attacks. All of this to see exactly how prepared the Russians are for a Ukrainian offensive in this area. So there's no significant advances or anything like that. It's just a small units doing some probing attacks. Then we move on to the Donetsk front. We see here the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Marinka, as well as Pervomaiske, Vodiane, and north and south of Avdiivka. So let's get into these attacks. First off, in Marinka, the fighting continues in the center of the city, as well as to the north of it, where here the Russians have advanced the open field and are fighting within these warehouses here to the north of the city. So essentially, these units are just trying to hold on to their foothold within this northern part, while they are trying to expand their zone of control to allow more supplies going in and out, or possibly they are stuck because of the weather. As for the center of the city, there is a lot of fighting, and it is very close fighting, so there isn't a lot of movement on this part of the front line. Looking at the recap, there was recently some advancements. It was yesterday, so essentially we see here that the Ukrainian forces are being pushed back in Marinka, but it is a very long process for the Russian forces. Then we move on to the Pervomaiske area, where here it is the same story. To the south in the direction of Nevelske, they're trying to hold on to their foothold. They may be stuck because of the weather, but essentially they're trying to capture Nevelske here to the south, which will allow them to envelop the city. And in the center and to the north of the city, we see here the Russian forces are trying to advance within these areas, trying to get a better position and trying to outflank the Ukrainian defenders. Then to the north of Vodiane, we see here the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Sieverne. And here we are seeing them trying to advance in that direction. We see that there are multiple roads, so the weather isn't an issue here. Here it is the intensity of the Ukrainian artillery fire that is holding back the Russian forces. And to the southwest of Avdiivka, this is most likely the same. They are trying to envelop the western part, the eastern fortifications of the trench network here in the center, while the Russian forces try to go around and gain control of it without having to storm it, but they're being held back by Ukrainian artillery fire. Then to the north and to the east of the city, we see fighting in the direction of Kamyanka as well as Stepove, where here the Russian forces are trying to cut off the rail lines that goes in and out of Avdiivka to the north of the city, and at the same time gain control over the eastern highway, the H20 highway that goes between Donetsk to Novoselivka Druha and Krasnodarivka, these areas here in the north. Then we move on to the Bakhmut front, where here the Russian forces are attacking on the whole front line. According to Wargonzo, the Russian forces have reached this highway again. However, there is no indication of that in any other maps, so I'm keeping it as this for now. But essentially they are saying that they have taken control, physical control over the area. But essentially it doesn't really change that much, as they already have fire control over the whole road. Essentially, especially because they are now fighting by the intersection. According to the latest reports, they are actually fighting right by the statue of the MiG that was previously destroyed. So they are fighting in this area right here and closing in on the statue or the intersection itself. And at the same time, we see fighting here to the northeast of that area in the direction of this Bakhmutsky industrial faculty. So it is an industrial faculty for a university here to the north of this area. So the Ukrainians are here holding onto this position as it is one of their strongholds within the city. So the Russian forces are trying to gain control of it, which would essentially cut off all roads to the southwest of the city and connecting with Ivanivsk, except for this one, and it will allow the Russian forces to then advance here to the east of Ivanivsk and to the west of the city, trying to gain a better position to attack the Ukrainian positions here in this residential area, as well as gain fire control over the last road in and out of Bakhmut. As for the north of the city, the Russian forces continue their attacks in the direction of the Azom steel plant, as they are attempting to gain full control over the industrial zone here. Then, according to Wargunzel as well, the Russian forces are actually attacking Khomove, which is this village here to the northwest of Bakhmut. It is cut off from Bakhmut because there is a bridge here that has been blown. So essentially the only road to Khomove is from the west. So the Russian forces and the Ukrainian forces are attacking here to the north of the road, where the Russian forces are trying to cut it off and the Ukrainians are trying to hold it to make sure that it isn't cut off, to make sure that the units at Khomove still have supplies. So this may indicate that the Russian forces were the ones to blow the bridge, because in this scenario it gives the Russians a better advantage than the Ukrainians, as the Ukrainians have a longer supply route and no escape route from Khomove now. Then we see to the Bohdanivka area, and north of Bohdanivka, the Russian forces actually advanced. They were able to gain control over this area here by the forest lines to the south of the Vasilivka and to the east of Ryhorivka, as they are trying to advance in the direction of Ryhorivka and get a better position to attack it and reach the canal here to the center of this front line. And we see also the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Bohdanivka, as well as Oryhovo-Vasilivka here to the north. They are attacking also by the E40 highway in the direction of Minkivka and to the north of Selesnyansk, where they're trying to gain control over the areas here to the north of the village, which will allow them to gain a better position to attack villages like Vasyukivka and Bondane. This may be why we have seen a cease of attacks in the direction of Vasyukivka, because they are waiting for the Russian forces to break through at Selesnyansk to then support an offensive on the village. Then we move to the Luhansk front, where here the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Bilohorivka, as well as Yampolivka, south of Lushenka in the direction of Nevsky, and in the direction of Makivka. So in this part of the front line, the Russian forces actually managed to capture another part west of Chernopopivka. The last time they advanced in this area was on the 4th of February. So this is a small advance, but a significant one nonetheless, considering the fact that they now have control over the borderline with the Luhansk and Donetsk regions here in the south. And now Chernopopivka is in a safer position. As for the Plushenka area, the Russian forces are trying to advance to the south and the north of it, which would allow them to cut off the Ukrainian forces operating within these forest patches, or they may just try to advance from the north and the south to cut it off by the road we see here. Either way, they are being threatened by these Ukrainian forces, as these Ukrainian forces can attack the highway, as well as Russian positions in Plushenka and in the direction of Chernopopivka. And that is all for this update. Thank you for watching and have a great day.